Hello, everyone. Welcome to Oakland Creates Art Maker series. Today we have Maureen Burdock, amazing artist, illustrator, and writer. I will share my screen and let them introduce themselves. Can you see the slides?
Just about. Yeah. Oh, cute. Um,
Of
hey, thanks so much for having me, Avi.
course.
Really great to be here with you. Um, yeah, so I'm Maureen Burdock. I'm a graphic novelist and illustrator. I have been a lifelong story sponge. Originally was born in Germany and moved to the US when I was 7. And books really saved my life, and drawing. I wrote about my childhood and experience of being displaced and finding a sense of belonging in a new culture in my graphic memoir, The Queen of Snails, which came out with Graphic Mundi in 2022. And I have a new book coming out, Sleepless Planet, a graphic guide to healing from insomnia, this fall, comes out in early November. And it combines science, humor, and personal experiences to tackle the modern pandemic of not sleeping. I had trouble sleeping since I was about 4 years old. So I know all about insomnia. I studied in the East Bay area at Davis, at UC Davis, and lived in the East Bay, and that's how I met Avi and Avi's wonderful comics work. And so, definite kindred spirit. So I'm really excited to be here with you, Avi.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, and I just recently, like maybe over the past few months, realized that you had written something about insomnia because I have suffered with insomnia since I was about 4 or 5 years old. So that's a funny thing that I just recently realized. And speaking of that, I have your book, The Feminist Fables. But talk a little bit about The Queen of Snails. I don't have that one, and that's a memoir.
Yeah, it's a graphic memoir. It was actually my dissertation as well in cultural studies at UC Davis. I started wanting to write about my maternal relatives who were displaced from Silesia, which is Poland now, during right after World War II, during partitioning. And so my mother and grandmother told me about, these stories of displacement by the Russian army and being refugees and resettling and eventually emigrating to the US. Like, grew up hearing those stories and wanted to make sense of them. And then the book became much more about memory and my memories and how I process those. I learned to process them by becoming an artist at a really young age, just drawing, and writing stories. So it helped me process a lot of my ancestral stories, transgenerational trauma, and then my own memories of growing up as a girl in the United States in a sexist world,
Yeah.
and dealing with uh, different issues as a kid here. So coming of age story essentially.
I'm definitely gonna have to pick that up. I feel like our work is so similar, especially our love of mark making and repetitive textures and line work.
Yeah.
Because these both really spoke to me because I like to incorporate text as well. Can you talk a little bit about both of these?
Yeah, thinking about your Nothing Good Happens at series, AV, and yeah, I just like that obsessive. And I don't do architecture like you do, but definitely like just that love of making a million tiny little marks on each page. Yeah, very meditative, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I just love I don't know, the composition and the layout and the way that you are describing things visually and not only just through the subtext of what the story is, but the way that you move your pen is telling a story too.
I like that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this image on the left with the the swastika, the dollar sign, the war. Um, that is an image of how basically all of this violence and violent memories were passed down to me from my relatives.
Mm,
And I'm kind of trying to process them. And as a little girl, you really can't. Like it was too much to
right.
process. All of this. World War II information, Holocaust, etc. Plus all of the contemporary wars that never stopped happening. Um, Vietnam War, etc. So yeah, it's that sense of too muchness pouring into my head, which
Mm,
is also, represented by how much ink I'm applying to the page, maybe you could say.
for sure. That's all part of what I'm reading, and that's kind of what I really love about your work is that you don't necessarily have to read the words, and evokes all these memories and emotions that are tied to your choice of shading and color or lack of it in some spaces, right?
Yeah, yeah, trying to do some pacing too, where I can slow things down and give the reader some space. And then denser areas where just like it's like all hitting you at once.
For sure. And that's sort of what happens too with memories, right?
Yeah, yeah. I really saw doing the graphic memoir as a curation of memory, like a museum curator takes a whole large collection of work and selectively decides what to present for a particular context, a particular purpose, particular show. That's how I see creating memoir. You're really curating, rather than trying to present everything.
Right. Well, that's sort of the place that I'm slowly coming to with I was calling it a zine. It's turning into a graphic novel about grief, loss, and loneliness,
Oh wow,
sort
yeah,
of as I investigate all the deaths and how I process them, in particular my mom, because she had dementia and was on a feeding tube and didn't recognize me for the last part of her life, and feeling because we had such a tumultuous relationship that it didn't bother me. And then as I'm drawing her images, like all of the ideas and thoughts around our lifetime together is coming back up and how to present that, right?
amazing.
So it's really, really, like you said, this is a way we process the world, and it's very much that. Yeah, I can see that, especially in the work you're doing too about circadian rhythm, because I have a page in um, my work about um, seasonal depression and how that affects us, especially when we're dealing with grief.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so important, and it's not something that I would have naturally tied in before I started working on this project. Can you talk a bit about how that affects your sleep or sleep pattern?
Oh, the seasons are grief. I do
Or
talk
just
quite.
the fact that our body regulates, and when it's dysregulated, what happens?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Our bodies are such like so much in sync with the rest of nature, right? Like we think we're separate, and that's of course such a horrible myth that's caused so much violence and misery. But yeah, we're on the same clocks that we've been on since we were like little tiny microorganisms, swimming in the big slush pile pool. uh, so it's never ceased. We're like part of this eternal rhythm, and when we're out of sync with it, which capitalism forces us to be out of sync with it, and colonialism, like we're just kind of broken because we need to be in sync with the seasons and the cycles. If we're not, we get really sick.
Right.
And sleep is just one symptom of that. So yeah, we used to be on lunar time, solar time, or a combination of the two. And there wasn't such thing as time zones and alarm clocks. That's something that was constructed in order to promote capitalism
Right.
and
You're on a
facilitate colonialism.
work schedule.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're beholden to other people's time demands on us, not responding to what our bodies need.
Right. Well, I love the dark areas that and I wouldn't necessarily call it negative space, but the places where I can enter in as a viewer and
Yeah.
the areas where you're applying more ink. They're really like lovely and lush and rich. Um so I yeah, man, I could look at your work all day. Um
Baby. Mhm.
talk about this new project, Sleepless Planet, a little bit more. I love the color, the pops of color that I'm seeing.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, that's the cover right there. I just saw some advanced readers copies, so that was really exciting. My lovely publisher sent them to me and just teased me with pictures in a text message. So I'm waiting to see the actual arc, and I'm super stoked because it's really beautiful, has the nice French flaps, nice binding and everything. So I can't wait to see it. But yeah, I was working on this for about 3 years, and I just was at the end of my rope because I had been to, I think, three different sleep clinics and doctors,
Mm.
and they had all told me basically, well, that's too bad for you. You don't sleep well. There's not much we can do for your idiopathic insomnia, primary insomnia. And I did a sleep lab study, and they found out that I had moderate sleep apnea, but it wasn't quite bad enough to have insurance pay for a CPAP machine.
Oh, wow.
So it was like it was bad enough that it was causing me to keep waking up and like not get enough oxygen and sleep very badly, but not bad enough to warrant getting a CPAP. So I did some different things to try to heal myself from upper respiratory, whatever it was called, basically the sleep apnea,
Mm.
um, which included playing a didgeridoo, learning how to play a didgeridoo,
I
strengthening
saw
my
that
upper airway.
on social media. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I did some lip taping, which that was there were some influencers talking about that, but James Nestor wrote this book Breath that was a New York Times bestseller, and that was a really great book and one of the things I read in my research, and he said it really worked, and I tried it and it really did work and a lot cheaper than a CPAP machine. So the first section of Sleepless Planet is all about breath, breathing, air, and I've divided it by the four elements. So I really explored what can go wrong with our breathing apparatus that keeps us up at night.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can see your lovely face. I actually do have well, it's a BiPAP. They started me out with the CPAP, but I've written a couple zines. One's called Sleep, and this new one is called Awake, because it's a combination of insomnia and sleep apnea. Fun, fun,
Oh
fun.
man. Oh God.
So, yeah, I think it's hilarious. I don't. Maybe other folks don't. I have a sick sense of humor, so I think, yeah, being awake and trying to breathe all at the same time.
I know. Is that when you do your comics, Avi? Is it like 3 or 4 in the morning?
Oh my gosh. I used to go to the gym at 4 in the morning. And
Yeah.
so just as a joke, I wrote the zombie comic book, Nothing Good Ever Happens at 4 a.m. because I was always outside walking to the gym or walking home a little bit later. And so I just thought it was hilarious because that's my favorite time of day.
Yeah, that's when I get up, really, at
Yeah.
4 o'clock every day. Yeah.
But I haven't quite started getting up at 4 o'clock anymore. But yeah, that used to be my favorite time. Now I kind of wake up a little later, but uh,
Nice.
I want to jump into the questions. So you said initially you were born in Germany. Where did you grow up? You said you moved to the US at 7?
Yeah, at 7, and I grew up in the Chicago area, first in a very rural place in Wisconsin where my grandmother lived in Grand Marsh, Wisconsin, which
Wow.
is exactly what it sounds like. And then the Chicago area. mostly. And my mom was a high school German teacher, so we often went back to Germany in the summers. So I was able to retain my language skills there.
No, it's so funny. I was gonna ask you, I'll probably ask you off camera, but because I'm so bad with German, I was trying to teach myself how to say "What's up, my beautiful people" in all these different languages. And funny story, at my 9 to 5, I asked the guy who came in who spoke German if I was saying it right, and he looked at me with three heads, like I had three heads, like, no, man. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll stop saying that. Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious
It's
though.
not the world's easiest language.
No, it is not. Well, the accent I think is really tough for
Yeah.
English speakers.
Yeah, and English was really tough when I was in second grade. It's
Yeah.
really hard. I remember trying to say months.
Ah.
The TH sound and the R sound just were horrible. I couldn't do it.
So what is it in German?
What, months?
Huh?
Monate.
Oh, so it's completely just totally
There's
different.
no in there.
Oh, wow.
It's just the shapes that your mouth get used to making, gets
Right,
used to making. Yeah.
right. Oh my God. I could talk about language all the time. I watch a guy on YouTube. I think it's Son Michel, and he's a linguist. He works at Harvard, and he talks about all the different um, languages that Ebonics or AAVE, how we merged a bunch of languages together when we were enslaved and created this language where a lot of times a lot of our words are truncated and our speech pattern is really it's set in a specific way, but it's regionally influenced. But there are
Yeah.
just a lot of staple things that Black people do when we speak. It's the same
Uh,
thing.
yeah, that's beautiful. I love learning about that, all the different influences.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, as long as you understand what someone's saying, then that's the point of communication. But so many people, get capitalism or whatever, get caught up in the status of sounding correct.
Yeah, yeah, it's tricky. Yeah.
It is. There's a huge, and I was talking to a coworker, there's a huge consequence for a brown or black person to use AAVE in the workplace versus if you do it. And
Yeah.
people forget that as well. Like it's not as hip or as cute as you think. There's like real world consequences for me because then the perception is different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So is there one incident that happened or something that inspired you when you were a kid or even as a young artist, where you said, "Oh, I can make art my living, or I can do this all the time," or
Man, I don't know. I just loved artists. I went to the public library all the time. It was like my second home, and I
Nice.
tried to read all the books in the children's library at one point, and there was this whole section on artists. And I remember finding, like Frida Kahlo, and I remember finding like Leonardo da Vinci and Van Gogh, and I would read their biographies, and then I would dream about, being a big artist like that, and like painting all the time, and people would pay me a lot of money, and I'd have these museum shows, the whole thing. Like that was my world I was gonna live in. So yeah. I just started really young, and my mom was really good about taking me to museums and things like that. I was a only child, single mom, and she didn't have a lot of money, but she was always really great about getting me books and art supplies and lessons and going to museums and things like that.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, my grandmother took me everywhere. I mean, literally, from 3 years old, because she was my primary babysitter once we moved to California, and every museum, every gallery, and like food festival. Like I was just like her little. a person that she took around everything. So I do feel like learning that stuff at a young age, it really influences us, right?
Yeah, we were lucky.
For sure, for sure.